Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Just like cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. 4:02 in the Pacific time zone, and I'm enjoying some fresh Oregon blackberries. What a wonderful time we had with our Maria event. Marijuana activist retreat in Astoria. And we may have some future marijuana activist retreats, and they may not always be in Astoria. We might have one in Atlanta, Georgia, and we might have one in Arlington, Texas. You get the theme here. We're always going to have it in a city that starts with an A. Maybe Albany, New York. We'll visit Dr. Mitch. Who knows? But it was a good time. We had Sean McAllister, who's the executive director of Dallas-Fort Worth NORML. He was in town for the whole Labor Day weekend. We had a good time going around in Portland for a day. I took him and Andra, his lovely lady, and also hardworking activist in DFW NORML, and took them around to some basic Portland things that you have to see if you're in Portland. Number one, we did the mass transit. If you come to Portland, if you come visit me in Portland, we're not taking a car anywhere. You're getting on a bus with me. You're getting on a train with me. And you get to marvel at an amazing public transportation system we have. So we got on the bus and we went down the street to a dispensary. And we were going to this dispensary that was on Sandy Boulevard. And farther down the road is Voodoo Donuts 2. Big pink building where you can get Voodoo Donuts. So we figured, hey, we'll stop at the dispensary, pick up something for the weekend, stop at the donut shop, pick up something for today. So we went into the dispensary and I found the prices to be problematic. Did not like the prices. Now, had I told the prices to my friends from Texas, I'm sure they would have just gasped at the remarkable price and selection. But for Oregon, it wasn't what I was expecting or used to. So, what a joy it was to be able to turn to them and say, well, looks like we're going to have to walk another 4 blocks to the other dispensary that's on the way. That's right, folks. It's not enough just to have a dispensary, but to have one another 4 blocks away. That was a beautiful thing. So we walked the other 4 blocks, and at this dispensary, I did find prices to my liking. And we got ourselves some nice Oregon flowers. And then we made our way to the Voodoo Donuts. And at the Voodoo Donuts, we had, Sean and I had the traditional Voodoo Donut favorite of the bacon maple bar. And that was wonderful. But Andra decided that she would get the full-size cock and balls. Now, if you don't know Voodoo Donuts, a cock and balls is a cake donut that is shaped like a cock and balls with chocolate icing and, of course, cream filling. And it's huge, being that it's chocolate and all. Anyway, so we had donuts and enjoyed that part of the day, and then got on the bus and made our way downtown. And from downtown, we made our way up to Powell's City of Books. Now, folks, you come to Portland, Oregon, I am taking you to Powell's City of Books. It is an entire city block, 4 stories, nothing but books, geographically segregated into different colored rooms, gold room, rose room, purple room, and so forth. So we spent a couple of hours there just looking, just wandering around, checking out books. Plus, they have other little things for sale there as well. The highlight, of course, at Powell's is going to the top floor where they have the rare book room. And we were able to look at books from the 1600s, 1500s. They have one book from 1480. Like literally just a dozen years or so after the invention of the printing press. Powell's has that book. It's like $32,000 for that book. So we left the rare books, and then we made our way onto the light rail train, where we went to inside the mountain, and you take the elevator off of the train platform, and you end up at the Oregon Zoo, overlooking the entire city of Portland, all the way out to Mount Hood. It was beautiful. Took a little free bus that circles around that area down to the Rose Test Garden, where we took a look at all the roses. All the amazing roses that you see there at the Rose Test Garden in Portland, Oregon. All my pictures will be up later this week on Radical Russ on all the channels, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Google Plus is where I post most of my photos. So you'll find them there under Radical Russ. We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to continue with my rant on Josh Marquis. Also, we got more to look at here in the state of Oregon, where public funds may have already been used to circumvent legalization.
Continue the conversation with Radical Russ online. Visit radicalruss.com and email radicalruss@gmail.com.
You can get 420 Radio on the go with the TuneIn Radio app for all mobile platforms. Go to rad-r.us/420TuneIn or just click the TuneIn Radio icon below the live radio feed on.
Join us for the International Cannabis Business Conference September 13th and 14th in the Portland Ballroom at the Oregon Convention Center. The International Cannabis Business Conference will focus on the emerging cannabis industry in Oregon, the United States, and around the world, putting you in front of the industry's foremost entrepreneurs, political leaders, and attorneys. Also showcasing over 40 cannabis-related industry exhibitors, offering VIP lunches and free nightly networking events. Prepare yourself for America's next great industry.
420radio.org is proud to replay Cannabis Network Radio with David Kowalski from Tampa, Florida. In-depth coverage from the front lines of the struggle to legalize cannabis from David Kowalski, a veteran activist fighting in the Deep South. Catch the replays Wednesday at 12 Pacific on.
Hi, I'm Richard Harris. I'm the former director of addictions and mental health for the state of Oregon. Drug treatment and prevention are woefully underfunded right now. Measure 91 will better fund drug treatment and prevention programs. Marijuana isn't going anywhere. We're not stopping it with the war on drugs. You have to remember that marijuana is a pretty benign drug. It doesn't have the usual dependency features of, say, heroin or alcohol abuse. Now, marijuana feeds drug cartels and fuels violence. We can crack down on that. Take the money from drug cartels and, by the law, spend it on law enforcement, treatment, and education. Criminalizing marijuana is just no way to solve the problem. That's why treatment people like me are supporting Measure 91.
With every century, our eyes on the universe have been opened anew. We are witness to the very brink of time and space.
We must ask ourselves, we who are so proud of our accomplishments, what is our place in the cosmic perspective of life?
Welcome back, everybody. Radical Russ here. Almost 11 after the hour, and I just received a tweet from ESPN. I'm trying to get confirmation of this. Of Broncos wide receiver Wes Welker being suspended 4 games for use of amphetamines. Yes, Adam Schefter of ESPN reporting just at 4:02, just literally 9 minutes ago. Denver Broncos wide receiver Wes Welker has been suspended 4 games for use of amphetamines, sources told ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter. Welker returned to practice field Monday as he continued through the NFL's concussion protocol, suffered his 3rd concussion during the November 17th preseason. The 3rd concussion since November 17th occurred in the preseason. So, yeah, there we go. So we've got amphetamine use gets you a 4-game suspension. Get caught using marijuana too much, you're gone for the year. Interesting. All right, I wanted to get back to the rant we were doing earlier. Josh Marquis is the district attorney of Clatsop County, where I just returned from this weekend, Astoria, Oregon. And he's basically the leading law enforcement voice against marijuana legalization, against Measure 91 here in Oregon. And on his Facebook page, he's taken to the SMOF defense. Stoned Mayhem on the freeways. My God, there's just no way. If we legalize marijuana, we don't have any tests. We have no way of telling if they're stoned. There'll be all these stoned drivers. They'll kill us with this mayhem and fatalities and wrecks and death. See, the problem, though, is that you can't throw that scaremongering out anymore now that 2 states have legalized. This is something I kept telling people during the legalization campaigns, is when it comes to the first legalization, don't be too picky. Don't be too picky. Get it legalized. No matter how it's legalized, the public won't care about the details. The public will just say, Colorado, they have legal weed. Washington, they have legal weed. And then anything from that point on that comes out of Colorado or Washington, we can point to how the sky didn't fall. What? The new youth risk numbers are in from Colorado. The Healthy Kids survey shows that fewer Colorado teens are now using marijuana after legalization. Ding! We win. What? We're getting all of this road data in from Washington State that shows not only fewer DUI prosecutions, but fewer fatalities per 100 million miles driven. Ding! We win. So that's why it was so important to get the legalization passed. And I agree there's still lots of things that need to be fixed about both of them. Both of them are taxing marijuana too highly. Washington State doesn't allow for home grow. Both of them have really tiny limits of just an ounce. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that still needs to be fixed. But fixing all that stuff is now remarkably miles easier thanks to legalization, now that we have a track record to point to. In Colorado, for example, between 2012 and 2013, now here's the other thing too, is they often like to just point to 2014, as if legalization didn't happen until sales were legal. No, legalization happened on December 6th, 2012 in Washington State and December 9th, 2012 in Colorado, when possession by adults became absolutely legal. Not ticketable, not contraband, completely legal. And in that year of 2013, Colorado found 10 fewer traffic fatalities and 55 fewer DUI filings. Since 2009, when Colorado started opening up and regulating its dispensary industry, DUI filings in Colorado have dropped 21%. Colorado's rate of 1.01 fatalities per 100 million miles driven is the same as Oregon's. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of things that have made the road safer. The roads themselves have become safer. They have better guardrails, for instance, right? Better lane markings, more reflective paint being used on the roads, more DUI patrols, more accident patrols. You know, those trucks that pull over on the side of the road to help people when they're, abandoned on the side of the road or whatever, right? The cars themselves, we've got seatbelt laws. More people wear seatbelts, we have fewer fatalities. The cars themselves have better technology to avoid collisions. Lots of things have made our roads safer. So you could complain that, yeah, the roads have gotten safer, but marijuana makes them more dangerous. I mean, I guess that's the argument of, yeah, there's only 300 fatalities, but imagine if marijuana weren't in any of them, there'd be even fewer fatalities. This is the old, Michael Phelps could have won more gold medals if he didn't smoke pot argument. Whatever. And it could be that drunk driving, when I'm talking about all these DUI figures, they're not separating by DUI alcohol versus DUI marijuana. They will in the future. We'll have that data in the future. But right now, what we just have is the total DUI figures. And in both Colorado and Washington State, they are getting fewer and fewer DUIs every year. Now, maybe that means that drunk driving is going down really fast as marijuana driving goes up a little. Maybe that's it. But I tend to doubt that because we have some preliminary data from a DUI traffic stop in Colorado. On May 9th, 2014, this was a Friday night, up in Larimer County. Now, this is a northern county in Colorado, Fort Collins area. On this Friday night, they did a DUI checkpoint from 11:30 at night to 2 in the morning, right? Prime, drunk driver time, right? During that time, they netted 1,572 drivers. Out of 1,572 drivers, they made 20 arrests for alcohol DUI and 0 arrests for marijuana DUI. See, Josh Marquis wants you to believe that legalizing marijuana is going to create stoned mayhem on the freeways, but the roads in Washington and Colorado are safer than ever, and the stings so far don't show a plethora of stoned drivers. Already here in Oregon, we've got 108,000 people who use marijuana 2 out of 3 days, 2/3 of the time. I like to call us the near daily users. 108,000 in Oregon already. And another 200,000 or so monthly users on top of that, for a total of 314,000 monthly users. And yet, our roads are safer than ever. We legalized medical marijuana, roads got safer. We increased the limits under medical marijuana, roads got safer. We started having dispensaries, roads didn't get any more dangerous. Legalization does not invent marijuana and cars. If there was going to be some sort of stoned mayhem on the freeways, Oregon would have experienced it by now. And furthermore, there's a story in the Oregonian that ran this weekend. Damn thing was 2,000 words long or longer. That told the story of a guy who got busted driving back from a rave in a forest. Early morning. Fell asleep at the wheel. Ran headlong into another car, hurt and killed people. Hurt people. I don't know if he killed anyone. Happened in Clatsop County. Josh Marquis prosecuted the case. And the kid had traces of marijuana metabolite in his system. He was 19. Had traces of marijuana metabolite in his system, but no active marijuana in his blood. And he was convicted of impaired driving. Josh Marquis, the prosecutor, the one who is afraid that, oh my God, we don't have any way of telling whether people are impaired, the one who's complaining that if we legalize marijuana, there will be stoned mayhem on the freeway, that very prosecutor got a conviction in that case with just metabolites in his pee, no active THC in the blood, and even Marquis said, quote, I'm not entirely sure he was high on marijuana when the wreck happened. Hey, thanks, Quagmire. Time for us to take a break. It's 4:20 here in the Pacific time zone. I miss my friends already. Happy 4:20 to my friends from Georgia and my friends from Texas. We'll see you again soon. And I hope Oregon's 420s lasted for you as long as they could. We'll be back right after this.
You can get 420 Radio on the go with the Ustream video app for Android and iPhone. Go to rad-r.us/420Ustream or just click the Ustream app icon for Android or iPhone below the live radio feed at 420radio.org. The International Cannabis Business Conference takes place September 13th and 14th at the Portland Ballroom in the Oregon Convention Center in Portland, Oregon. Featured speakers include Oregon Senator Floyd Przansky, U.S. Congressman Earl Blumenauer, Daily Dish blogger Andrew Sullivan, author Doug Fine, and Harborside CEO Steve D'Angelo. To learn more, visit our website at internationalcb.
I don't use marijuana, but as a teacher of 36 years, I can tell you lots of other people use it. I don't believe in prohibition. I don't think it works. Prohibiting it hasn't stopped anybody from getting a hold of it. I would like to see it regulated so that maybe kids can't get a hold of it so easily. I know they get a hold of it now very easily. I support a new approach to marijuana. I support legalizing it. It's with us. It's not going to go away. And if we can get money through the taxation, we can also educate our kids about it. That's why I support it.
My name is Richard William Riggs. I'm a judge in Oregon. In 1998, I was elected to the Oregon Supreme Court, where I served until October of 2006. I've been asked to give my views about the new approach to marijuana initiative that is going to be before the voters very soon, and I'm happy to do so. I've read the measure, and I'm going to vote for it. And the reason I'm going to vote for it is because I think that it's inevitable that marijuana is coming to Oregon in one form or another. And I hope it comes in the form of a good bill like this one. If we're going to have marijuana in Oregon, this is the way to do it. Drugs and marijuana particularly play a huge role in the economic engines of most of the local gangs. The gang-related violence that occurs is often as a result of bad drug transactions of one kind or another. I think the proper legalization of marijuana and the control of it in an appropriate way is a substantial step forward to eliminating some of those problems. Using the criminal justice system to enforce certain societal social norms is kind of a waste of resources. It takes away from the criminal justice system dealing with forcible rapes and murders and so forth. I've read this measure, and I'm going to vote for this measure. And I think anybody who reads the measure and gives it careful thought will probably join me in that vote.
At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of The Russ Belville Show and 420 Radio. Are you a hypocrite? If you live a closeted cannabis lifestyle, you are. Read about 7 people living a closeted cannabis lifestyle who are on the verge of coming out in The Hypocrites by Mara K. Eaton. Available at areyouahypocrite.net. You can purchase the book on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, also available on iTunes. Check out Mara K. Eaton on Facebook as well. Learn more at areyouahypocrite.net.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Electric Tuesday, featuring the latest in electronic dance music and other cutting-edge genres. Now, Sit back and enjoy your daily Toker tune.
Welcome back, everyone. 25 after the hour, and we got some music here by way of Electric Bob in Arizona, who is unfortunately sick today. He says his throat is shot. That's a shame. Sorry you couldn't call in today, but we'll get to the music anyway. This is the Cottonmouth Kings with Passin' By.
Pulling on some tubes, no more rubble berries, so I settle for the blue, snap it through, and my lungs start to hurt, hold it in long enough to put your dick in the dirt, and people go berserk trying to get their hands on it, most commonly heard phrases, Rick just got the crowd, so I'm on it, matter of fact, I'm on the top, can't nobody fuck with me, or the killer Cali crops like Reeboks, yo, I'm unstoppable, and the bones that I pack are unpoppable, so what you grow, all I wanna know is what seeds, what system you using, you got the light you need, you got a master's degree from the weed Ivy League to you a cop without a clue, just looking for a lead. Rolls on, passing by your eyes real fast. Another 20 go, another day is past. Rolls on, never know said we never last. Life rolls on, passing by your eyes real fast. Another 20 go, another day is past. Rolls on, never know said we never last. Hey, look, I think it's time to grow again. Fuck it. If you're gonna grow, you better come pick up and walk it. Alright, I'm coming through. Hey, yo, grab some Mountain Dew. A pack of zigzags and a couple of brews. I cruise through in the blue too with the bass too. I too got the big bumps, keep my caddy dump. Don't front on the strung stuff on my banging bus. Willie roughed on that blunts, but turn that shit to dust. Dust to dawn, just like the modern day teaching chunks. Tim and Dustin on the bong, smoking mad amounts of gone. Writing songs, playing pong. We was young, we mowed the lawn, stealing cigarettes and bongs. We was kids getting it on. But now we're grown, standing strong. 2000 and beyond, two dawns at the bomb. We used to fight to get along. That was way back then, and this is right now. We're on a mission to get it, smoke it, and bone the hell out. Passing by your eyes real fast. Another 20 go, another day is past. Never know said we never last. Life rolls on. Passing by your eyes real fast. Another 20 go, another day is past. Never know said we never last.
.420 Radio is 24-hour marijuana legalization radio.
You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, we've got Frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher.
My name's Tara Selzen, and I've worked in environmental conservation for many years. I'm a big supporter of Measure 91 because our current marijuana laws have failed us. We have the opportunity this fall to vote to support legalizing, taxing, and regulating marijuana in Oregon. There are many obvious reasons for reforming marijuana here in Oregon. There are over 12,000 arrests and citations each year. That's one every 45 minutes. I think those are the wrong priorities for our public safety. And there are also many other unintended consequences that come with the current system. By treating adult marijuana use as a crime, we're forcing those who grow marijuana to exist in the black market. That means they go out into our natural areas, wilderness, and forests to grow marijuana. These illegal marijuana grows pose a serious environmental problem because they don't belong in our forests and natural areas. They remove vegetation, they harm our habitat, and they hurt wildlife. Regulated marijuana would be grown like normal crops, but illegal marijuana growers are tapping into our fragile creeks and streams and actually dry them up. It's not just outdoor marijuana growing that poses a threat to our environment. Illegal indoor growing does as well. Because they can't take advantage of energy conservation programs, indoor growing wastes a tremendous amount of power. There are a lot of reasons to support regulating marijuana with Measure 91. Protecting our environment is one of them.
.420radio.org is proud to replay the Hollywood Hemptress Hour with Terry Joyce from Portland, Oregon. Terry Joyce is a stand-up comedian and writer and was a former reality television star from the first season of Last Comic Standing. In 2007, she was caught up in a marijuana dispensary raid that made her a cannabis activist. Catch the replays Tuesday at 12 Pacific on 420radio.org. The Marijuana Business Association, or MJBA, are proud sponsors of the Russ Belville Show. It is the mission of the MJBA to establish integrity and legitimacy, create common market standards, provide market intelligence, and develop best ethical business practices for participants in the emerging legal marijuana industry, including commercial hemp, medical marijuana, and recreational marijuana for adults. Learn more about the Marijuana Business Association and visit mjba.net to join today. That's mjba.net. The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, treat law enforcement with respect and stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney." Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at omarfigueroa.com.
Welcome back, everybody. 433 here in Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios. That's music from Terra Lumina with A Beautiful Thing. We're going to continue on looking at the state of legalization here in Oregon. We've got Measure 91 on the ballot, and that's our measure to legalize marijuana. We're going to be legalizing an ounce of possession, as well as 16 ounces of edibles, 72 ounces of tinctures, and an ounce of concentrates. We also legalize home grow, 4 plants home grow, and 8 ounces possession at home. We will also have a full wholesale and retail system of marijuana producers and retailers and wholesalers and processors. Each license, $1,250. $250 for the application, $1,000 for the license. And the leading spokesperson against this Measure 91 legalization is the district attorney of Clatsop County, Oregon. County seat is Astoria, home of the Goonies. And his name is Josh Marquis. And he's been writing, and he's gotten a lot of ink in the newspaper as well. You know, whenever they need a comment from the anti-side, they go to Josh Marquis. But he's also been commenting on his personal Facebook page. And from that Facebook page, I wanted to go over some more of his, obfuscations and lies and half-truths and so forth. And in particular, and it's funny because on the Oregonian's website, I actually got a comment back from someone that said, "Sounds like the pro-marijuana people are afraid of something. We don't want Kevin Sabet coming to town. We don't want this big tour happening because we're afraid. If the people found out the real truth about marijuana, they wouldn't want to vote to legalize it." Folks, I'm not afraid of that at all. I want them to go on tour. I'm actually worried the thing might get canceled. Hell, from my point of view, it's nothing but positive, man. It gets me out on the road, gets me a big ratings show. I want this tour to go on. I'm all for it going on. What I have a problem with and what I'm afraid of, if I'm afraid of anything, it's that the other side gets to use taxpayer money to subvert an initiative. Now, if they want to get $2.5 million from Sheldon Adelson or some anti-drug billionaire out there to fly Kevin Sabet's ass out, first class, I'll bet, put him up at a nice hotel, get him a rental car, pay his per diem for all his food, and, of course, honorariums to speak. If they want to do all that with private money, hey, I applaud you. Go for it. Do it. I'm pro free speech, baby. What I got a problem with is that a lot of these local groups that want to put this little speechy thing on are using their drug-free community grants to do so. Their federal money that they get for drug-free grant education. Now, if this were an educational forum on marijuana, education sounds to me like we would explore all aspects. It wouldn't just be opponents of legalization that are sitting up there on the dais. It wouldn't just be opponents of legalization giving the keynote speeches and appearing at all the panels. If this is truly an educational event, let's get some education across about marijuana. Go ahead and bring Kevin Sabet in, and we'll bring in Dr. Carl Hart. We can have a talk from the local chapter heads of Colorado Project Sam and Washington Project Sam. And then let's have a talk from the chapter heads of Colorado Normal and Washington Normal. I mean, if we're really interested in education here, how is it that only one side is being presented? A very anti-marijuana side. And they want to pretend it's just about education. But Kevin Sabet flew here in January to oppose this very same legalization scheme when it was before the legislature. That had nothing to do with education. It had everything to do with opposing legalization. So why is Kevin Sabet coming out again if he's just here to educate? Why would the heads of the Colorado and Washington Project Sam be invited to talk about the facts about marijuana, if not in the context of them being in Colorado and Washington, the places that just legalized marijuana, for the purposes of discouraging the legalization of marijuana in Oregon? Josh Marquis himself told the Bend Bulletin that this series of educational events would pour water on the measure. So they know damn well it's a political event. And once it's a political event, you cannot spend public money on it. In fact, those federal grants, they get those drug-free grants, tell them they can lose their drug-free grant money if they use any of it in any sort of promotion or production of a political event. Now, they might try to, it's just educational. It's just educational. Folks, the law is pretty strict and broad on this. Both strict and broad, if you can imagine that. If an event looks like a political event, if it smells like a political event, it is a political event. It doesn't have to come out in so many words. And there's numerous cases about this that say they don't have to come right out and say, this is the vote no on Measure 91 rally. They can do it as subtly as saying, well, marijuana is a really, really bad thing. In places that legalized it, bad things have happened. That's enough to make it political. I would offer that any mention of Colorado or Washington legalization at this event will make it legal. Or will make it a political event, excuse me. So we will be there. We will be broadcasting from every one of them. We will be distributing questions to the people that show up. Questions they might ask that will get these people to, say something stupid about legalization, but B, prove beyond a shadow of doubt that it's a political event. This is going to happen, folks. We're going to be there at all of them. And Josh Marquis, this guy from Clatsop County, is the one who's in my sights right now. You can check out all of these posts. I posted them all at the International Cannabis Business Conference. You can find their blog at internationalcbc.com. The Desperate Lies of Josh Marquis. And in the most recent Desperate Lie, this was on his Facebook page, he says, quote, "As a DA, I see too much damage done by drugs and alcohol, particularly mixed with driving. In Clatsop County, there are only 2 trained drug recognition expert cops and no real test that scientifically shows impairment by pot." And that's his big problem, right? No real test that shows scientific impairment by pot. Now, I already talked about how Washington and Colorado have roads that are safer than the national average, despite legalizing. But let's talk about this test thing for a second. This is the old marijuana breathalyzer that they all wish they had. Josh Marquis complains that his county only has 2 officers trained as drug recognition experts and no real breathalyzer-like test for measuring marijuana impairment. So I guess Josh Marquis has never gotten a marijuana DUI conviction. Since there's no real test for it, he's only got 2 DREs. Gosh, must have never ever convicted someone for a marijuana DUI. Oh, wait, we just told you that story where he did, even though even he believed that the guy wasn't impaired by marijuana at the time. So he complains that he's only got 2 DRE officers and no breathalyzer for marijuana, but in the same post complains the state and local police will receive nothing in marijuana tax revenue. But like I already pointed out, the average county could reap $43,000 a year in marijuana tax revenue. So how much does the Oregon DRE school cost per officer? Josh Marquis wants to complain he's not got enough DRE officers. Hey, Josh, we're offering you marijuana tax money to hire more DRE officers, to train more DRE officers. Marquis, though, like other district attorneys, and hell, like probably just about anybody else, we like things that make our job easier, don't we? Now, before the days of the 0.08 blood alcohol content, remember, 0.08 BAC, your automatic DUI, right? Well, before the 0.08, prosecutors like Marquis would have to submit evidence in court to prove that a driver was, in fact, too impaired to operate a motor vehicle safely. Now, that could have been dash cam evidence, sobriety test evidence, officer testimony, alcohol on the breath, accident report, so on. But with this new 0.08 blood alcohol thing, Josh Marquis only needs a number greater than 0.08 on a report. That's all he needs now to secure a conviction. That's a whole lot less work. You don't have to go through the testimony. You don't have to go through the dash cam. You don't have to interview the cop. You don't have to interview the driver. You don't have to put him on a stand. You don't have to have a jury. You don't have to have a trial. You don't have to judge. Oh, what a relief that all we need to do is take this driver's blood or breath or urine, and if a certain number comes up on the magic test, it's an automatic guilty. Saves so much time. Don't have to go to court. You can do plea bargains. It's all nice and tidy. Now, it doesn't matter if that driver was obeying the law. Doesn't matter if that driver was operating his vehicle perfectly. Doesn't matter if he could pass the touch your nose, walk the line test. If he's got the 0.08 BAC, his blood alone gets him the DUI. Well, prosecutors nationwide are clamoring for something similar with respect to marijuana. There's just one problem. Marijuana ain't alcohol. It doesn't metabolize the same way, and you cannot scientifically prove that someone's too impaired based on their marijuana blood levels. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about Washington and Colorado and their 5 nanogram DUI limit and what the facts are about that on the Russ Belville Show.
And now, a message from former President George W. Bush to remind the American people of our responsibility in our nation's war on certain American citizens using non-pharmaceutical, non-alcoholic, tobacco-free drugs.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
That's right, America, use less drugs. Put down the Prozac, the Vioxx, and the Levitra, and turn to the herb. Use less drugs. Our national policy is no longer just say no, it's now just slow down.
You get me too high. I overanalyze. If you've ever been too high, then you can sympathize. You get me too high. And I start to fly if I said some silly thing, and that's the reason why.
420 Radio, the activist radio station. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for Normal. And I smoke pot and I like it a lot. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact Normal at norml.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORMAL.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email firedup.
There is a point. Is there a point to all this? Let's find a point. Is this real? Or is this just a ride? The world is like a ride. You think it's real? It's just a ride. We can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice between fear and love. The world is like a ride. You think it's real? It's just a ride. We can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice between fear and love. Life goes up and down.
Welcome back, everyone. 48 after the hour. That's music from Melody Sheep, remix of Bill Hicks and George Carlin with The Big Electron, two of my favorite philosophers of all time. We're continuing on a look at Oregon marijuana legalization and the attempt by the district attorneys and the law enforcement opponents of legalization to muddy the waters here, confuse people about the science on marijuana and driving. Now, District Attorney Josh Marquis was complaining that he didn't have enough drug recognition experts. Didn't have enough DREs. Only got 2 DREs. Oh my God, we're going to legalize marijuana. We've only got 2 cops who can tell if someone's stoned. So we looked up this drug recognition expert program. Sergeant Michael Awai is the state coordinator here in Oregon. And we found a few things. Number one, we found that a blood test for an accident to try to determine if someone, blood test just generally to determine if someone is too high to drive, is $200 to $400 a piece. $200 to $400 taxpayer money we have to spend to see if someone's high. But instead, we can have these DREs, drug recognition experts. And the Oregonian did this story, did a question and answer with Sergeant Awai about how these DREs work. Now, he mentions that there are about 200 DREs, drug recognition experts in Oregon, that generally the police forces in Oregon try to have at least 1 DRE on their force. They ask, why doesn't every officer get DRE training? You know, if our job as cops here is to make sure that people aren't driving impaired, and drugs are one of the things that can impair them, you mean that's not part of the normal training? They have to go to a separate school for that. And he says the initial training class takes about 3 weeks, during which officers learn all about the human body from doctors, toxicologists, and program alumni. It's almost like a mini medical school. Only smart kids make the cut. Yeah, it's like a mini medical school, where mini means take the learning and education that takes someone, 12 years to complete and compress it to 3 weeks. So it's mini. Okay. Sergeant Y says, quote, not everyone gets through. They all say it's one of the hardest classes they've ever taken in their lives, end quote. Well, yeah, they got criminal justice degrees. How many hard classes did they take? Come on now. Anyway, and according to Sergeant Y, this is the process that is involved in determining scientifically under a drug recognition expert. This is how we can determine whether or not someone is too impaired on marijuana. First, an officer pulls over a car for a traffic violation, speeding, swerving, or broken taillights, or suspicion of a crime. 2, the real process begins when the officer comes in contact with the driver. Some symptoms are obvious. Bloodshot eyes, candy bar wrappers, and what a Y calls the, quote, typical Beavis and Butthead laugh, end quote. Yeah, that's some damn unimpeachable science you got going there, Sergeant Y. Bloodshot eyes, candy bar wrappers, and the Beavis and Butthead laugh. Couldn't be a nervous person with allergies who likes Snickers. No, that's got to be a pothead. That's got to be someone who deserves more intrusive harassment from the police. This is their scientific basis. Bloodshot eyes, candy bar wrappers, and the Beavis and Butthead laugh. Because a stoner would never think of Visine eating carrots and not laughing. So if an officer has reason to suspect a person is under the influence, he or she will ask the person to undergo a field sobriety test, balancing on a line, walking with one foot in front of the other, pivoting, balancing on one leg, and touching one finger to the nose. So if you are a person who might have bloodshot eyes from an allergy, might like Snicker bars, and has a funny laugh, you then are going to have to prove that you're not a criminal by doing a whole bunch of feats of dexterity. Now, the person who doesn't have the Beavis and Butthead laugh, who uses the Visine and doesn't leave the candy bar wrappers in the car, well, they don't get all that extra testing, apparently. So this is what they want to try to convince us is the problem with stoned drivers and the need for some sort of marijuana breathalyzer. Now, they've done this in Washington and Colorado. In Washington state, there was such a fear that SMOF would be used to defeat the measure that the legalizers put a per se 5 nanogram THC blood limit in the law. In Colorado, they did not put such a limit in the law, but there was such political pressure that the legislature finally came through with a permissible inference 5 nanogram limit. There's a difference between the two. Per se limit means if you're above 5, you're guilty. Period. Permissible inference means if you're above 5 nanograms, you're guilty, but you can try to argue that you weren't. Okay? So the first one is guilty. The second one is guilty till proven innocent. Washington is guilty. Colorado's guilty until proven innocent. They don't need any evidence that you were impaired. You can drive perfect. You could be sitting still in bumper to bumper rush hour traffic, and then some other car bumps into you. You could get the DUI. Just sitting there getting bumped into, you could get the DUI for having 5 nanograms of THC in your blood, even if you're not impaired to any degree whatsoever. And that's the problem. The problem with marijuana is that the driver at 5 nanograms may likely be unimpaired enough to drive a car. With alcohol, we've got a ton of science to show that just about everyone, okay, maybe not an obese alcoholic, but just about everyone is going to be demonstrably impaired at 0.08 BAC. But marijuana ain't alcohol, folks. It doesn't metabolize like alcohol does. Marijuana can be detectable in your blood long after the impairing effects dissipate, even after a night's sleep, even driving sober to work in the morning. And worse, this lingering THC in the blood is more likely for frequent users like medical marijuana patients. Now, Josh Marquis might say, well, shouldn't we bust people who are using marijuana so frequently it's still in their blood? No! Because in addition to the lingering effects of THC, there's also a tolerance to its impairing effects developed by frequent users. This means that the newbie who smokes his first joint on the day pot's legalized, he's probably too high to drive at 5 nanograms. But the medical marijuana patient who's been using for 16 years every day, multiple times a day, probably wakes up at over 5 nanograms. And probably drives just fine at levels far above that. We have some anecdotal proof of this. A reporter from Washington's KIRO decided to test this. He brought a medical user, a recreational user, and an occasional user of marijuana to a test track. They all consumed marijuana and headed out to the track with a driving instructor in the car and a DRE cop watching from the sidelines. Jeff, the occasional user, was still driving fine at over 20 nanograms, according to both the instructor and the DRE cop. Dylan, the recreational user, was fine at over 25 nanograms. Addie, the medical marijuana patient, got up to 56 nanograms before the cop said her driving was borderline. Now, Addie could have gotten a DUI when she drove to the test because she was already at 16 nanograms when she showed up. Legalization doesn't invent cars and marijuana. If we were going to see Stoned Mayhem on the freeways, with 11% of Oregonians using marijuana on a monthly basis, we'd have seen it by now. But even though we do not have a stone driving problem to solve, Measure 91 still directs the Oregon Liquor Control Commission to study the science on marijuana-impaired driving and make recommendations to the legislature if any changes need to be made. Measure 91 also sends money to law enforcement that they can use to train more DRE cops who can detect, candy bar wrappers and Beavis and Butthead laughs. But until the science shows a reliable test that not only snares pot-impaired drivers alone, but also doesn't snare unimpaired drivers who just happen to be pot smokers, all Josh Marquis is asking for is an easier way to discriminate against legal cannabis consumers. We want safe roads just like anyone else. And we're here to tell you that marijuana's been around for decades. Oregonians have been using it for decades, and yes, Oregonians have been driving after using it, even driving while using it, for decades. If there was going to be Stoned Mayhem on the freeways because of legalized marijuana, we would have already seen some sort of effect from Stoned Mayhem on the freeways over the past 40 years of marijuana use in the state of Oregon alone. It's more scaremongering. It's more obfuscation. It's more half-truths, lies by omission, and outright falsehoods coming from Josh Marquis, the Oregon District Attorneys, the Oregon Sheriff's Association, and all the law enforcement people who are upset that their easy little gravy train of pot arrests and forced rehab are coming to an end here in the state of Oregon with the passage of Measure 91 this November. Visit voteyeson91.org. Visit radicalruss.com for all of the write-ups of these various opinion pieces. For everyone here at 420 Radio, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.